Welcome to Simplify to Scale, a show dedicated to helping you scale a high impact and high profit business that you love without all of the complexity and chaos that can keep you trapped in the day-to-day. I'm your host, Krista Grasso, and with decades of scaling experience, I know what actually works and what's just hype. So if you are done with all of the one-size-fits-all scaling advice and all of the overnight success promises, and instead you want proven practical strategies that will help you simplify operations, elevate your leadership, amplify profits, and scale sustainably, let's dive in and get started. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Simplify to Scale show. Today, you are in for a treat because here is one of my very favorite people in the world and an absolutely brilliant businesswoman who has so much to share about some of the unseen reasons why we burn out, and specifically why when we think of getting support and building a team around us, we often look at our business and build a fantastic business team, but we overlook one of the other really critical contributors, and that is the things that happen in our home life. So we are going to dive into all of the things that you need to know to give yourself that really well-rounded support so you have the time, the space, the energy, all of the things to be successful across all facets of your life. And we're going to dig into some of the things that come up for us that we don't even necessarily think about and realize. And I know one of those was a really big focus for me this year. So I want to tell you a little bit about today's guest, who's Sue Reeve. She is the founder of Consider It Done. She is based in London in the UK, and she leads a concierge and executive support firm of EAs, really high caliber EAs, designed to help high performing professionals regain their time and much more control in their personal lives. She has over 2 decades of experience leading international project teams, and it was that experience and experiencing her own burnout through that process that led her to build her business. And it was that experience that led her to build the bridge between the often overlooked gap of professional life and success and personal life and all of the overwhelm that can come together. So Sue, welcome to the show. I'm so excited you're here.
Oh, it's so nice to be here. I've listened to so many of your episodes, so it's really fantastic to be on one. Thank you.
So tell us about, I'm just going to let you deep dive into this because I know this is something you're so passionate about. You're so knowledgeable about. You've been doing this. You've had your business for more than 21 years now, which is fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about why it's important that we think about help at home and why as entrepreneurs, we sometimes overlook that part when we're building out the team to support us.
That's exactly right. And most entrepreneurs talk about business burnout, but home life is often the unseen part of that. So, there's constant mental clutter. If you're running a home, which, particularly women in business are, there is school logistics. There might be aging parents. There might be meals to plan, school admin going on, a mountain of things to remember. And that's before a crisis comes along and you've got to down tools and deal with that. So this is sort of an unseen load. It's something that you just kind of get on with without really thinking about how it's affecting your energy, your focus, your rest, and actually your joy in your business. And you didn't start a business to feel overwhelmed. You started it for freedom. You started it because you had big goals, you had passion, you had something you wanted to follow through with. You didn't really expect to be, held back, burdened by all of this background noise that's there day to day, whether you like it or not. And so, we talk about business burnout, but we kind of almost ignore the fact that the home life can sometimes be the accelerant to that. And also there's a kind of physical part about this. So many times business owners are working from home. So even if you have a corporate role, you're working from home a lot of the time. If you're starting up, you haven't got office premises maybe. And so there's a physical aspect to this as well, which is that your office HQ is your home in many cases. And so you think about your business having infrastructure and systems and support around it. Your home deserves that too, in order for it to be that successful part of it. So you need your work life to be successful, but you need your home life to be successful to allow your work life to be successful. And so this is, continually something that we don't really pay attention to. In our businesses, we are outsourcing accountancy, web design. We find a great SEO person. We've got tax advice. We find somebody to do our social media. We're outsourcing all of those key functions. And that feels great because every time you find somebody good to take care of those things, you're freeing up your own capacity. You're freeing up mental space, mental capacity for yourself to focus where you need to be on your next project with your next client, driving things forward. And so we do that naturally within our business strategy, within our business building, but we don't do it for our home lives. We somehow think we can take care of it all ourselves. And we're forgetting that home life is part of business operations because it's there every day, day to day. And it could be that, your home isn't just where you live. For so many people, it's, they've got their office set up maybe, but it's also the place where if you have children, your children have needs from the home too. They're going to be running in and out, needing things from you. The washing machine beeps. There's a delivery at the door. A courier needs something signing. The dog needs feeding, walking. It's doggy daycare. It's performing all of those different functions as well as your business. So imagine just how many times a day you're being distracted from your business goals just by virtue of the fact that you're in your home with all of those things running around you. And yet there is some resistance to outsourcing. So even with all of that backdrop, people are, doing second shifts after work. So, so many times I hear the children are in bed and I lift the laptop lid again. I've got a couple of hours of peace and quiet to get on with some more things. And so, people are working late into the night and becoming really exhausted because they're, looking for those pockets of undisturbed time where they can get things done instead of looking for a new way to manage all of this. And I think, a lot of people would recognize that, business and home can kind of bleed together. There may not be a commute where there's a nice piece of time where no one can reach you, between, leaving home and going to work. If you're working from home, that commute kind of goes away. And maybe there's no physical door to shut. If you live in an open plan space. One of the things that I did very early on in my business, I started at my kitchen table in 2004, all that time ago. And it predated. In 2004, we had analog phone lines. Can you believe it? We had dial-up internet. It's really hard to believe it now. And so there I was at my kitchen table. I had a printer and a laptop, and then I had a pile of paper, and then I had more paper. So I moved the first bit of paper over there, and then I ran out of space. So I moved my printer somewhere else in the kitchen, and then I needed some shelving. So I got a shelving unit, and more things went on the shelving unit. And before, very long, really, my kitchen was my office. It had completely turned itself into something else. And the whole thing was kind of creeping its way around my apartment. And so in the end, what I very deliberately did was I decided to rent an office. I made it local to where I lived. So I was only spending 10 or 15 minutes walking between my home and my work. It's never going to, you'd never call that a commute, but it actually created a buffer between home and work that meant that I get into the outside, I get some fresh air, I get a walk every morning. Sometimes I very deliberately take a long walk to work. So I have, good 20 or 30 minutes between home and work. And in that time, I can reset my mind and my thinking, really make the most of that time outside, and switch. And then when I leave work in the evening, I come back home and I've left the office behind. So that is something to think about is, if your home is starting to get taken over by your business, as mine was, maybe there you do need that physical buffer, but more so it's really thinking about where can we go with all those distractions, where can we go with all that stuff that happens around home every day. And I think it's probably true to say that you can't really seriously scale a business with a head full of mental clutter, your mental inbox, if you like, that's constantly ticker taping around your head, that's keeping you from where you really want it to focus.
Gosh, there's so much in what you just shared that I'm relating to and that I think is so true. And it's interesting because I've heard you talk about aging parents and how that's a concern, right? Especially it's like you start off and the concern first is kids, and then the kids might move out of the house, but then it's aging parents. And there's always these outside things that I think pull our focus. And I heard it and I got it, but I didn't fully get it until my dad got sick. And all of a sudden being able to it's not even the number of hours that I was away from the business. It's the constant mental load of what's going on. Is he going to be okay? Is this surgery going to work? Where are they moving him next? What? And it completely dominates. And I understood it in a completely different way when I experienced the whole thing with my dad. And as you were talking about the office, my gosh, when I launched my jewelry business also in 2004, I had started, of course, in my condo back then. I was still in my condo. I wasn't even in my house yet, I don't think. And so I was in my condo and I had my nice little setup and I had it on the dining room table. And then as things started to grow, I also got a studio. I had an office space and it was amazing. And I loved that separation. I loved being able to get in the car. It was 10 minutes down the street, beautiful drive, beautiful building and an old mill right over this man-made waterfall thing. It was really beautiful. And so I would go there and I would do all of my design and I'd step in and I'd instantly be in a place of creativity because it was my space. And then I could drive home and I could be done. And that separation was amazing. And of course, now I don't have that space as my focus is more on the service side of what I do versus the product side. But it is much more challenging to create that separation when you're physically in the same space all the time. And I'm laughing because I'm thinking I don't have the kids pulling attention, but I do have the dogs. And the dogs are always literally pulling attention. Wolfie comes in and grabs my shirt sleeve and will literally pull my sleeve until I grab him and put him outside.
It's crazy. And, I think you're not alone in that. In the 21 years I've been running Consider It Done, I kind of look back and I think, well, what were the big kind of, the big sort of things that really came crashing in and destroyed that workflow. And, I think about it. I personally had some eye surgery. My partner had a stroke. We lost both my partner's parents at different times in that time. My own mum got sick too. So, those things will keep happening. And of course, you personally need to be involved in those things. But then what happens is either you have to just kind of decide that you can walk away and leave stuff, or if you've got a really fantastic right-hand person, if you can outsource that home life aspect of it, what a relief to know that things aren't going to fall apart. You're no longer that bottleneck that's, stopping things from happening. And so I suppose it's probably worth talking about what this could look like. And, although we are based in London in the UK, there are services like this all over the world, but there are some key things to look for. And really, I have very deliberately gone about looking for high caliber people who are going to be the front line helping our clients, because they have to be of the sort of caliber that our clients will feel confident in, that they can rely on to be there. And we very deliberately look for experienced people. So there are so many things that you can't teach a virtual assistant, that they have to already know. You don't want to be having to spell out every last detail of every last thing, because you'll be left wondering, well, I could have done that myself. You need somebody who's been there, done it, has got that experience. And so experience is a really big part of this. And so I very deliberately look for former PAs and EAs from first tier banks, who've really, put the hours in and the years in, through the corporate world, so that you're in really good hands. We then also make it really easy for our clients to work with us. So we put very simple systems in place. WhatsApp is a fantastic tool these days. You don't have to lift the laptop lid and write a nice email to us. You can literally run from one meeting to the next and ping the thing that came to your mind just at the moment it came. And we, that we're here to catch it. You can take photos with WhatsApp, and you can take, a picture of the gate that broke, at the weekend, or the gutter that's overflowing, and we're on it. So we make it really easy for people to work with us, and we make that a really secure place too. So we've built our systems to be about as secure as you can make them in today's world, so that again, our clients feel confident when they're sharing things with us, that it's in safe hands. So when you're looking for a service like this, those are the things to be looking for. And I would also say the people that are working for you need to be able to understand you. And that probably means that they are in your country, in your time zone, and they know the world that you live in. So that's a really important aspect too. And then the kind of things that you can offload. And, I say to new clients, it can be anything. It literally can. And, the most important thing is to make sure that it's important and will make a difference quickly. And so we actually start out with a personalized plan for every new client, and we pick apart what that means to them personally. But it can literally be, okay, look, I really need to find a maths tutor for my son, or my daughter is just started rugby and she needs picking up every Tuesday. I just don't have time to stop and go and get her. Can we find a safe taxi service for my teenage daughter, and check them out so I feel confident and I don't have to do that job anymore? There's something, we finished doing up the house, but we just didn't get around to decorating the room at the back and it's just full of clutter. It needs decluttering. What can you do to help me with that? So it's going to be all of these scenarios, real scenarios that we'd all love to get rid of. Let's face it, we'd love to get them off our plates. And so these are things that we can, take and manage from end to end, owning every single detail and through to completion. So that's the kind of thing that you'd be looking for if you were looking for a service like this.
Yeah, it's really interesting as you say that, because what I think so many of us do is that we would be ourselves either out there researching those things or trying to hire individual people for each thing. So, okay, let me go find a designer so that they could go do this project. Okay, let me go find somebody who maybe knows somebody who they trust, who has somebody who could do regular pickups, and you would one off each one of those. And what I love so much about the service you have is there's one place to go, no matter what it is. And there is someone there who takes care of all of those different things for you. It's like having that incredible right hand in your business where you just got back from the conference and you're overflowing with ideas and you're thinking, I need to do this. And you can just point them in the direction and you don't have to be the one on the tools website researching it and doing this different thing and talking to this different person. They kind of go make it happen, whether it's themselves or whether they're enlisting other people on the team or outside the team to support. Imagine just all of the things that you spend your time doing and researching and thinking about, or the open tabs in your brain because you haven't gotten to it. And it's like eating away at your energy and your focus and a constant distraction that you need to do because it feels like something you have to go do or you have to go figure out. Imagine instead if you literally just had something that you can put in your phone, do your picture, do your quick little text update, and all of a sudden there's someone else who's on it from a home life in the same way they are from your business life. I just think it's so brilliant what you do, and I wish that you were in Tallent, Connecticut. Just saying.
Yeah, we could maybe one day. So I think that actually nudges on a really important point, which is that the other thing that you need from your home life assistant is somebody who's really well connected. And so, of course, over the 21 years we've been in business, we've built up an immense black book of incredible contacts, tradespeople, contractors, contacts of all kinds. And they can be specialists like, financial advisors, pensions advisors, mortgage brokers, the things that are in the UK regulated services that you can't actually ask an assistant to do for you, but by attaching to or going through our network, we can connect you with, brilliant people like that. But we can also bring in handymen, decorators, carpet fitters, electricians, all of those sorts of people who, are tried and trusted. They're going to take their shoes off at the front door. They're going to be polite to you. They're going to tidy up after themselves. So the sort of people you want in your home. And now you're no longer Googling a plumber at midnight, because we've got a really good one already on our books that we can put in touch with you. So that's the other thing to remember about this sort of service is it needs to be really well connected, and you need to be able to draw on all of those kinds of resources. We've got some fabulous things like a dining concierge. So it's a lady who we work with very closely. She's part of our family, and she knows the restaurant trade inside out. So she can recommend anywhere in London. So if you're coming to London and you don't know it very well, we've got a fantastic dining concierge lady who will recommend that the latest. She knows all the latest openings, what's hot, what's people are talking about, the places that are lovely. We can usually pull some strings and secure a table where the restaurant's showing fully booked. We can usually have a nice free complimentary glass of fizz on the table when you arrive. So lots of lovely things that come as part and parcel of being in this business for the length of time that we have. But I kind of feel like we should come back to the reason why this is really key for entrepreneurs and business owners, particularly. And this is remembering that, you need your home life to be successful in order for your work life to be successful. And that's, you're running your business like a pro. And so really that asks the question, are you running your home like a pro as well? The truth is that you can't do everything and do everything well. So, that's kind of your choice here is, are you putting yourself in an unsustainable situation? You want to be delivering your very best work for your business. It's what you've invested so much in. Are you allowing it to have your very best self? And I think, I would have to question, can you really do everything? And what is it that you need in order to make sure that everything does get done and done well?
So let me ask you a question, because what I see is sometimes in the early stages of business, people are very reluctant to invest in help of any kind. And then eventually they hit the tipping point. And as soon as they start to hire support, they realize, what was I ever thinking trying to do this all on my own? How much more support can I actually realistically bring in right now? And it becomes, once you start to experience that freedom and the ability to stay focused in your zone of genius and not have the distractions and not have the energy drains in business, all of a sudden you start to realize the criticality of building out the team around you. But what I see is, even with the women who have no problem, they've gone past the tipping point, they have no problem building out a business support system, there is like this immense amount of guilt or this immense amount of something that holds them back from getting support at home. It's like they failed as a person if they're not managing their own home life. Like, what do you see comes up for that? And how do you see people finally move past that and have their own personal tipping point on realizing the importance of that support for home as well?
Usually there's a trigger. So, usually one of those crisis moments takes place, and we've talked about some of our own. Usually it's something where there is, exactly as you say, a tipping point that says, okay, it's the message has come home. I realize that. Or sometimes it's, there's a life milestone. So, quite often people might reach or see there's a big birthday with a 0 on the end coming up, and they're thinking, how do I want the next decade to look? There'll be some sort of trigger that brings them. It could be there's a house move and they've just at the same time taken on a really big promotion at work. There'll be something like that says, whoa, I don't think that I can get past this without, looking for some extra support. So once they experience that support and they feel that freedom, that's even when we've moved past that initial kind of inertia of difficulty, we've unraveled all of that and we've, created a nice sense of calm and freedom. Even once we've reached that, they can say, okay, I can really see the value of this now. So I think it comes in experiencing it. And, I really think that there is a certain amount of pre-programming, particularly among women who expect themselves to be able to just do this stuff. But I think it's maybe looking through a slightly different lens and saying, actually, I'm doing things differently now. I've got this business, which is like having another child, that I need to nurture and give my very best to. How can I be the best, the most effective leader for that business? And this is one of the great ways of doing it.
All right, Sue. So for everyone listening who probably like me wishes that they were in London, but just maybe knows someone who is and can pass this episode on to them, tell people where they can find you, where they can follow along, because you do have some really fantastic tips and things that you share on your socials all the time. So give everyone all the details on where they can find you.
Thanks, Krista. Well, the first place will be the website, and I think we're going to put the URL in the show notes. So scroll down, you'll find the link there. We also have what we call a house and home calendar. And this is something that's come straight out of my head after from 21 years of helping other people look after their homes. I've got a wealth of experience that I'm sharing through a monthly house and home calendar, which is basically acting as a reminder to make sure you're keeping tabs of all of the different things that are going on in your home. And first off, people might think, well, I know my home. But actually, I did a bit of research around this, and there are literally thousands of things you have to remember around your home, and also things to look out for. So, certainly in the UK, we have a lot of us live in properties, houses and buildings that were built, 100 years or more ago. And so we have to look after them. We have to take care of them. We are custodians of that architecture, if you like. And so there are so many ways that we can be looking out for things if you know what to look for. And I'm talking about, I've just actually written a blog about wasps' nests. Wasps are a particular type of kind of flying pest in the UK they have a nasty bite, and so people don't like having them around. But because we have old houses with cracks and things and roofs with eaves, wasps find little places to nest, and they can become a little bit dangerous if you've got kids around. So what to look for, what time of year to look for them, and how to go about sorting out a wasp's nest if you are unfortunate enough to have one. So it's those sorts of things I build out as lots and lots of different tips. Easy Wi-Fi fixes. We've peppered our calendar with those all the way through the year so that, you are well informed ahead of time, in case something that you could very easily fix for yourself goes wrong. How to clean your car like a pro was probably one of our most popular blogs, because there are lots and lots of things that you can do. You don't have to bring in a mobile car valeter. You can actually do a fantastic job of cleaning your car very quickly if you know how to do it and you have the right tools. And then I also have a thing called the Declutter Express, where something we all find ourselves doing is accumulating stuff. How many people have got that kitchen drawer that you open, you look inside and you go, okay, I'm going to close that again, because it's just full of stuff you never knew even where it came from. So that we've got this Declutter Express that gives you a place in your home to focus for about 10 minutes on. So it's no more than 10 minutes at a time. And you can work your way through the calendar, through the months of the year, picking out a different place in your home to declutter. And by the end of the year, things will be so much different. And, lots and lots of, property management, how to jet wash a patio if you've never done it before, all sorts of things like that. So, if that sounds of interest to you, please also be invited to sign up to our House and Home calendar, which comes out every month, and we'll have a wealth of new things every single month relevant to that particular part of the year. So we're sharing all of our years of expertise through that calendar.
I love it. And I will just say, just putting my business hat on for a moment here, it is the most brilliant lead gen ever because the amount of value that it provides for people who download it if they want to do everything themselves is tremendous and way more than something most people give for a free download. But also, it drives such demand for your services. And so from a true business strategy perspective, it's by far, I think, one of the best lead gens that I have seen in ever. So very nicely done.
Well, thank you. What a compliment.
Now, that being said, I cannot wait to hear your answer for this question. But when in your business, how do you scale smarter, not harder, and keep things lean?
Well, I think when you've been in business as long as I have, I think the answer to that question is there's no one silver bullet. There's no one thing that you're going to find that one day, all of a sudden, you've just got to discover it. And I think that I probably was at danger of doing this myself. I signed up to all the newsletters. I got all the advice from everywhere. I was reading all the things and I was thinking, if only I could just find the one thing that's going to be the thing I do that will change everything. Okay, let me just put you at your ease. There is no one thing. And I think what you need to start with is a really clear strategy, a really clear audience, a really clear target for your work, and understand who they are inside out, top to bottom, and then build around that as your starting point. And thereafter, it's a case really of trying things until it works, and then just building enough of an ecosystem that that people start to see you in multiple different places and understand and they find that your content is resonating and that what you're saying resonates for them because you've been so focused on your target audience. So I think there isn't one answer to that question. And I think that every business will have a different set of layers that they build that are unique to them.
Is there anything in particular that you found has been really helpful in your business this year or recently?
Yeah. One of the really big drains on my personal time was invoicing every month. So every month I have a whole set of customers to invoice, and I need to know that I have the right information and that I'm being accurate every single time, every single invoice. And it's a process that I have personally taken on board all of this time because it's so complicated. There are lots of little pieces of information dotted around in all sorts of different places. And I had to kind of carve out that undistracted time. So I was giving up an entire weekend every month, 2 full days every month, all of that personal time gone just to get the invoicing done and done right. And so that's one of the areas that, apart from the fact that it was kind of killing me, and that was a really big motivator in itself. I spent a lot of time and I got some help, some really fantastic help to help me pick it apart and automate loads of that. We used Zaps, we used different systems. We managed to kind of glue a number of pieces together, got some very good tech support behind it to do that. And now I have to say that we've reduced those 2 full days down to 5 hours. So I can now do the entire process in 5 hours. I'm still doing it myself. So the next stage is to look at how we can completely ring fence that and make it something that somebody else can do. So you can see that's probably quite a good example of where there's no one easy answer. It's a case of investing, rethinking, trying it out, finding the right solutions, gluing it all together, and then making it something that somebody else can do. And that's just one piece of the business, but a very fundamental piece, of course, because that's all about cash flow and bringing in the revenue quickly. So that I think has been a real game changer as far as for me personally and also for the business. And by the way, there's a really good example of how that has had a very good and positive impact on my personal life, because now I've got that weekend back every calendar month.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic. What would we all do with an extra day and a half per month back? I would take it.
Absolutely.
All right, Sue. So thank you so much for all of the brilliance you shared. Before we wrap up, any final tips for people on making sure that they're giving themselves enough support in their home life as they do in their business?
I think it's about so first of all, recognizing that you don't have to do everything yourself, finding the right moment to bring that into your home system. Thinking ahead of time about who would be the best person to help you do that, and really looking at this as part of your business ecosystem, so that your home life isn't something separate; it's actually part of the success of your business.
Brilliant. And there's one thing I want to circle back to that you said earlier that I want to make sure you all heard, because I think this is super important. Sue emphasized the importance of having someone close to you, someone who actually understands what you do in your time zone, maybe in your physical town area where you live. And I think so often as business owners, we keep the personal stuff because we might have an EA or a VA or someone who's overseas or someone who doesn't understand exactly what we do, who's not necessarily working in our time zone or in our hours. And so we end up easily giving them business stuff, but we struggle to give them personal stuff. So don't limit yourself by thinking that you need to hire personally in the same way you hire in your business. If you do have a team who is not local, who is not in your time zone, think about what that could look like if you can find support that is local, and think about all the connections and all of the things that Sue mentioned that she's been able to build up. Well, one of the reasons that you can do that is because you are working in a very specific niche area. So you can develop depth in a way that you can't when you're going too broad. And so I think that's a brilliant strategy for you. But for all of you listening, I want to make sure that you heard that. And I want to make sure that you're thinking through that, because the way you're thinking about getting support for yourself, if you truly want one place you can go to have support across such a wide variety of things, you're going to need to find somebody who has that depth and who's probably close to you. Sue, thank you again for being here. So much brilliance shared. I hope you all got as much value out of this episode as I did. And again, if you know anybody in the London area or anyone who just needs a gentle nudge that it is time to get support at home, please make sure that you share this episode with them. And you will find the links to connect with Sue down below. Make sure you get the house and home calendar, and be sure to follow her on socials because she shares some pretty incredible stuff. So see you again next week. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Simplify to Scale. If you'd like to take things further, I invite you to join me for my Scale Smarter, Not Harder interactive workshop. Head to strategicopsinstitute.com/scale smarter to get registered. Not only will we dive into what might be keeping you trapped in the day-to-day, but you'll have the opportunity to ask me your questions live. If you got value out of today's episode, I'd love if you'd take a moment and rate and review the show so more businesses can learn to scale more simply and sustainably. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and I'll see you again next week.